Welcome to another segment of the BYU Management Society's Learn from Professionals initiative. Our goal is to provide guidance to young adults that are either exploring various careers or are ready to jumpstart a career. Today, we have an opportunity to learn from a seasoned professional in law enforcement, Lieutenant John Havenar. Lieutenant Havenar has been with the Colorado Springs Police Department since 2002. Throughout his career, he has served as a patrol officer, counter sniper, as a member of the Tactical Enforcement Unit, or SWAT, homicide detective, patrol sergeant, robbery unit sergeant, patrol lieutenant, and lieutenant of the professional development section. As a tactical enforcement officer, he's participated in over 700 tactical operations, as well as providing security for numerous dignitary visits, to include the President of the United States. His responsibilities as the professional development lieutenant have been to oversee the department's national accreditation standards, as well as policies and procedures. He oversees the ongoing training for the department's 800 incumbent officers. He is responsible for training newly promoted sergeants and lieutenants and developed a mentorship program to assist them in their new responsibilities. He also manages the department's peer support and wellness program that offers support to the department's sworn and civil staff. John has received numerous awards and commendations throughout his career, to include a Medal of Valor and Life-Saving Award. While not at work, John and his wife keep busy with their four very active children and one grandchild. He earned his bachelor's degree in organizational communication from the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
We appreciate your willingness to share your expert advice with our viewers. So, can you tell us what made you decide to pursue a career in law enforcement?
I think I'm pretty simple-minded. I actually don't have any known family members in law enforcement. A lot of times you see that where you see it's kind of a family business, if you will. And it wasn't something that I had thought of growing up. It was probably in my mid-20s when I was still looking to figure out what I was going to do in life. And I always knew that I wanted to do something that I would enjoy. And I just remember driving home from work one night and seeing a motorcycle cop sitting on the side of the road. And I thought, I could get paid to ride a Harley, and I've always ridden motorcycles my whole life. And I thought, you know what? And honestly, that was the first thing that interested me. So I started looking into it. The funny thing is, after 23 years, I've never been a motor cop, because as soon as I became a cop, I realized mostly what they do is just traffic, and there was a lot more out there to do that interested me. So I actually never went down that path.
Okay, that's great. So you didn't get to ride that Harley, but I bet you've done it on your own. So tell us about what's the best career advice someone's offered to you.
I'd probably say early on, they just said, make sure that you balance work between personal life, because it can be a very involved career field. You're known by others about your profession. I don't ever have to tell people I'm a cop. Whenever I go somewhere, other people around me introduce me as a cop. And so if you want to hide it or not, you can't, because all your friends identify you as that. And because of that, it really identifies you personally and professionally. And so you've got to make sure that you have that balance. Throughout my career, I've had a lot of jobs where I've been on call, a lot of responsibilities. And so it's been long hours, evenings, weekends, but you still got to focus on your personal life and your family and keep that separation. Make sure that all of your cops or all of your friends aren't cops. As many of them will fall into that, because then that becomes everything that you do. And so when I take off my uniform and go home, I'm a dad, a husband, friend, and just do my personal things and put work aside unless I'm on call and have that phone with me. But other than that, I try to keep that separation.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you do now, and also, how did you get into the position that you have?
So what I do now as the lieutenant in our work in our training division, main thing I oversee, we have a team of in-service instructors led by a sergeant, and they're responsible for the training. We have post-mandated hours through the state that we're required to train every year. And so we have to provide that training annually. And it's different training every year, but there's some things we have to touch on as far as driving, firearms, arrest control, and some different things we have to meet. But so oversee and ensure all of that occurs. I also am responsible for training our new sergeants and lieutenants when they get promoted. And that sometimes can happen bi-weekly, just depends on attrition and promotions and whatnot. So I will hold an annual sergeant school for our new sergeants as they test for the process. But then once they're promoted, I also do another day-long orientation for them. And then same with lieutenants. And so then I also work with the chief's office on holding annual and sometimes quarterly supervisor conferences for all of the staff, sworn and civilian, in the department. I oversee our peer support and wellness programs. We have a team of about 50 peer supporters around the department, sworn and civilian, and they are there to meet the needs of everybody in the department with stressors of the job and things that they want to talk about. But we also have on retainer and contract psychological service providers that members of the department can go see for work-related things that we take care of. So, but there's a lot going on.
Sounds like you're really busy.
Yeah.
So, John, with a lot of the professionals that we've interviewed, sometimes it's just a straight up, their career path has been straight up. Other times there's been waves. Perhaps there could be difficulties sometimes that they've had to overcome, events that they've had to overcome. But tell us about your own career path. Has it been a continual upward path because you're doing great, or have there been obstacles that you've had to overcome?
So I've been doing great the whole time because I continually enjoy doing my job.
Okay.
I still enjoy it. This is the first day I started, because what's nice about the Colorado Springs Police Department and working for a municipality is you have a lot of options. And so I basically can switch career fields by working for the same company. And what I mean by that is, so I started as a patrol cop, everybody does, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And doing that is every day you don't know what's going to happen. You know, the next call is going to be different, and you have no idea. Once you clear one call, you could be going on a paper call where it's just a crime that occurred and you're going and taking a report on that, or you could be going to something active or a traffic accident, whatever it may be. And so you kind of always have to have a mindset of being ready for what's next. So that was very enjoyable. I did that for about 7 years. And then I had the desire to go to our SWAT team. So I tested for that and got on our SWAT team and served mainly as a counter sniper on the team. But we were a very active team. It's a full-time team. And so there's a lot of training involved, but a lot of operations involved too. And so it's on-the-job training as well, just through those operations. That was fun. And at the time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to retire as a SWAT cop because it doesn't get any better than this. But you mature and grow up and realize there's other things to do. And so even though I never really wanted to leave that job, I decided that at some point I wanted to promote to sergeant. But also with patrol and SWAT experience, there was other things I was missing to be a more well-rounded sergeant. And so I kind of did an informal poll with sergeants and asked what were they most concerned about. And they said SWAT calls and dead body calls. Well, I didn't have any investigative experience, so I tested for homicide and got on a homicide and was a homicide detective. And again, talk about a difference in career from going as a member of the SWAT team to a homicide detective. But I enjoyed it just as much for different reasons. I learned a lot there. And then after that, I was promoted to sergeant. I was in patrol for just over a year. And then I was able to get a job as our robbery sergeant. And I ran a unit of robbery detectives We responded to bank robberies, personal robberies, business robberies, things like that. So that was a lot of fun. That was kind of more, it was a plainclothes position where we did a lot of surveillance. And so it was a very active unit where we were out on the street working a lot of cases. And then after that, I was promoted to lieutenant in patrol. And once you get to my level, you're appointed to the position. So you have a little bit of choice, but ultimately it's up to the chief. And I actually did not ask for this job. He put me in this position, and it's the first non-operational position I've been in. But again, I appreciate it because it's made me more well-rounded, learning the administrative side of the house and dealing with some of those things, and also bringing all the past experiences to this position.
Wow, it sounds like you've done a lot of different you've had a lot of different assignments, a lot of different work that you've done, and that keeps life interesting. So can you tell me about the education requirements to become a police officer?
So it's different depending on the agency you go to. So for the Colorado Springs Police Department, we require an associate's degree or equivalent as far as credit hours. But some agencies just require a high school diploma. Other agencies require a bachelor's degree. So you just kind of have to look around and see, depending on which department you're going to go to, what agencies you're going to work for, what their minimum requirements are. I know we've even changed it to where our recruits can actually come in, and we got it so that the hours that they're receiving in our training academy will actually count towards that. So they actually may start with less than an associate's degree or equivalent, but those training hours, by the time they graduate and become sworn, they'll have enough credit hours at that point. Mm-hmm. And then you also have to be at least 21 years old. So
I see. So those are the requirements to enter in as a police officer, but to advance to a level that you're at, I know that you have your bachelor's degree. Is that a requirement to advance?
It is to promote to lieutenant, but we also a few years ago initiated an experience equivalency, an education equivalency. Mm-hmm. And so you can actually, if you are in grade, every 2 years in grade, I believe, counts towards 1 year of schooling. So we can now promote somebody to lieutenant who doesn't have a bachelor's degree, but based on the experience that they have in the department.
Okay, that makes sense. So in addition to your formal education, as a police officer in law enforcement, do you strive to achieve different certifications or advanced learning, different designations?
Yeah, throughout your career, especially more job specific, there are specific certifications that you need to have that will either send you away to a school for, or we'll bring it in-house. But officers have multiple certifications and a lot of different things, just depending on what their job is, the equipment they use, and whatnot. And so we do require a lot of different certifications, but you get those in the job. That's not something you would enter the career field with.
I see.
Yeah, and one thing though, you do have to be certified by the state, and so a post-certification. So depending on the agency that you go to, we have a large enough agency where we run our own police academy. And so as part of that police academy, you receive your post-certification. We do all those requirements and testing during the academy, but there might be some smaller agencies who don't have the resources to have their own academy. So you need to be post-certified before you get hired. And so you can get those through local colleges and universities.
Okay. I think that's great. It's continually learning. That's what I see from your career path. So what do you consider to be the most important rewards and some of the challenges of being a police officer?
This job is the best reward, and this job is the most challenging. So it's twofold. It's just, like I said, I love working for this department because of all the opportunities we have. And it's a forward-thinking department where we're always looking for the cutting edge and training, equipment, and things like that, and looking ways to improve ourselves and not just be okay with the status quo, and holding our officers accountable to that as well. So, but just, I mean, being out in the public, of which I'm rarely now because I'm a lieutenant, so the gun and badge is just a show. because I'm not a real cop anymore that we joke around when you promote. But um, just being able to be out there and working with the public on so many things, but that's also the most challenging because of all the stuff you deal with and see on a daily basis in the community.
So, Lieutenant, you've had a lot of leadership positions. I'm sure you've been exposed to good leaders and perhaps those that need some more help. But what would you say are the characteristics of the most successful leaders in law enforcement?
I would say definitely hardworking, not being lazy, being diligent with the assignment that you have, and being focused on that. Being honest with yourself and with those around you, being trustworthy so that you can be a resource for people to come to. And then also just with this job specific, as a cop, being sympathetic and empathetic to not only those you work with, but the people that you serve and work around. And it just, that comes with experience and things that you deal with. But having those attributes will really kind of propel you forward. And something I always tell people is, they'll enter it and they'll have a goal of what they want to become or what they want to do. And I just remind them, just do your best at what you're doing. Be focused on that because that's where your reputation builds. People see where you're at. If you're constantly working for the next thing, they see that as well. And the people you're working with actually don't enjoy being around you because you're not focused on your own duties. And so whatever assignment or responsibilities you have, focus on those, and that will precipitate you doing well in the future.
I see. Lieutenant, can you please tell us a little bit about maybe some of the trends that are impacting law enforcement now?
Probably the biggest is just recruitment and retention. It's when I started, I remember I showed up at the city auditorium to take a written exam. It was a Saturday morning, and I thought I was showing up for a rock concert because the line was around the block, just to get in to take. And at the time, there was about 20 positions in the academy that we were vying for. And I don't know how many hundreds of people that were there that we were taking this test for. And so, but with the way society is, there's certainly a lack of public support and trust in our profession in general. I would say that Colorado Springs is not reflective of the national trends. We have a lot of support, a lot of appreciation from our community, and it shows in our department and just how we're able to serve our community. So we're very fortunate, but it still has impacted us just from certainly the recruitment side and getting enough people, because there's a persona around law enforcement and people aren't as excited about it as they used to be. The profession has changed with time as far as technology and training and things, but it's still the same job in just talking to people and the things that we do, and I enjoy it. So,
what advice would you give to someone that's interested in jumpstarting a career in law enforcement?
Number one, I would just say go on a ride along. So go to your local police department. Most of them would allow you just to go on a ride along so you can see what it's like. And that's not going to give you a complete vision of what it's like. And every night is different. It could be a slow night, could be a busy night. But I would say doing that, and at least that way too, you get in the ear of a police officer and you can ask them questions and find out kind of like what we're doing now about what it's like to be in that career. But also experiencing it, and it'd probably be very eye-opening to what we actually do. I think there's a perception of what police officers do, and ultimately we talk to people. And you've got to be a good communicator, and I think you'll see that every call you go to, you're literally just talking to people and working through problems.
So that's something I did when I was in high school. I went on a ride along. It was pretty interesting because I grew up in Canyon City, so we've got the prison system there. But it was fascinating to do that. I learned quite a bit. So in addition to the going on a ride along, are there other resources that an individual should access in order to learn about the Colorado Springs Police Department or other police departments, books that they can read, websites?
Yeah, I would assume, I know we do, but I would assume that most agencies and departments have a lot of information on their website. And I mean, by simply just doing a search for whatever agency you're looking for, you'd be able to find that. We actually even have an app on our phones, on our work phones that we carry around, that I can just pull up a QR code that someone that I'm talking to can scan. And it just opens up a portal to show everything about our career and benefits and things like that. So, but I would say you could easily just start there with technology today and find out a lot of information from that.
I see. So, advice that you would give to someone that is interested in a career in law enforcement. They want to have a balanced life. And I think you kind of alluded to this earlier. You said you have to have a separation between your work life, your professional life, and your family life. Are there other areas that you would give advice that you would give to young people about living that balanced life and being able to have, be a well-rounded person?
Yeah, I would say figure out what your standards are, your values, and stay true to those. Early on, we have not only obviously being on call and shift work, you can't control a lot of the times that you work, but we also have like extra assignments we can pick up. And I told myself, that I wasn't going to work on Sundays throughout my career by my choice. Now, certainly shifts and call outs, that happens and that's fine. But if I could choose something, that I wouldn't do that. And I stayed true to that. In homicide, worked a lot of hours, and you would see guys, in on the weekends, just cranking through interviews and dictating reports and things and just trying to stay up on top of the work. And I balanced it to where at least I would hope that my family didn't really see that I was gone that much, because every other Friday we would have off. And then also my kids are very active and they're in sports. And so most of the time they weren't getting home until 7 in the evening anyway. And so I found if I just stayed an hour or two after work to get a lot of that done, or on a Friday that was off where they were at school, I went into the office and got stuff done. But I never went in on a Saturday or a Sunday to catch up on work, because I just piecemealed it throughout the week when I knew they wouldn't be home and miss me anyway. And so you just find and get creative ways to get the work done without impacting the family a lot. But at the same time, you can't control that being on call. I mean, I've been called out on Christmas, Easter, kids' birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, you name it, where you just got to drop and go, but they understand that. And then also making sure that your family supports you in that. My wife has always been fantastic in supporting the things that I've worked towards. And before putting in for an assignment or before promoting, I always ask her and talk to her about it and explain to her what the requirements are going to be, because if she's not okay with it, then I'm not going to do it, because you've got to have everything right at home. And I would say she's always been okay with it and supported it. And I know some of her friends have asked her, how do you do it when John's called out or at work? How do you plan for things? And she said, I do things like a single mom. And so she plans as a single mom, because that way, if I get called out, I can't be there, it doesn't change the family plans. They don't have to all of a sudden, oh, dad's not here, now we have to cancel. And then the kids are disappointed. She approached it that I'm not going to be there anyway. If I can, great. But that way, me being called in didn't change any of the family plans, so it wasn't affecting them as much.
Yeah, that can be difficult. Work responsibilities and personal life. So can you tell me about how important is networking to a career in law enforcement?
So your reputation precedes you. In law enforcement, it's a big family. And so before somebody has met you, they may already know you because of your reputation, good or bad. And so that kind of goes back to do a good job at the assignment that you have and be diligent in that. But certainly if you are looking to go to an assignment or test for a position or promotion, meet with the people in that position in those units and find out what that job's about. Find out the ones that are on the selection committee or that are doing the interviewing, find out what they're looking for in that next employee, and then go back and apply those things to yourself and find personal examples of how you meet those attributes that they're looking for. But you certainly need to do your homework ahead of time and just meet and talk with people.
So, John, one of your responsibilities is to develop and oversee a mentorship program. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program, and also why do you believe that mentorship is important in law enforcement?
I think it's important in anything, but certainly in law enforcement, because we all have, I mean, you heard from my background and the things that I've done in my career. There's somebody else that's been on 20 years that has done completely different things, because we have so many different units and responsibilities that we can work in. And so having a mentor and somebody to rely on that has more experience than you, that has been down that road, really helps you not having to learn it on your own firsthand. You're still going to, but at least you have other experiences and other people that you can rely on. Our mentorship program is basically when someone gets promoted to sergeant or lieutenant, we have other people of rank within the agency who have volunteered to be mentors. And so we will have the person being promoted look at the list, decide out of that list who would like to be their mentor, and we'll assign them to that person. And it's structured in a way that we have structured requirements on how often they should meet. I kind of give them guidelines of things that they should discuss in case they're kind of not sure, okay, where do we go from here? And just kind of really share their own experiences with that person on how they can overcome some of the obstacles that they have. Because unfortunately in our career field, staffing is always a challenge. And when somebody gets promoted, they're essentially thrown to the wolves with a lot of responsibility. And so we do whatever we can. We have training in place, but even in addition to that training, we want somebody in their hip pocket as a mentor to be able to guide them through that process.
So, Lieutenant, can you, in kind of wrapping up this this interview, is there any other career or life advice that you'd like to offer to young adults?
So in my career, because I get the opportunity to go to elementary schools throughout my career and do show and tells or whatever and talk to them about being a police officer. And, you know, especially as little kids, they look at us with the equipment that we carry and think it's really cool. And I point out to them that even though it may look cool and things like that, and not saying law enforcement isn't a great profession, it is, but basically for them to figure out what they would enjoy doing in life, because you're going to be doing it for a long time and you want to be passionate about it. You want to enjoy doing it. You don't want to be frustrated going to work or that job. And so really do some soul searching and not just look at it from a benefit standpoint of how much I'm going to get paid and things like that, because that's not necessarily going to make you happy. And I certainly didn't get into law enforcement to become rich, but it's taking care of my family. But you've got to find out what your true passion is, and that will drive you and be successful in that position.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Havenar. We appreciate the time that you've taken to offer career building advice to young adults that are interested in a career in law enforcement. It's just totally fascinating to me. So, so we'd like to remind our viewers that they can either reach out on their own to seasoned professionals like Lieutenant Havenar to schedule an informational interview, or to ask for an introduction to a professional from someone that they know. To prepare for informational interviews, to learn about a profession, we recommend that you watch the video on our website titled Conducting Informational Interviews. So again, thank you, Lieutenant Havenar. It's a pleasure to kind of learn about your career story and to get the advice for young adults.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay, have a great day.